Partiu.
Today's the day. One UI 7 is here, and we have the exclusive hands-on.
One UI 7, finalmente, cara.
Welcome back to SAMMOBILE TV. You're here with Daniel, and in front of me on my S24 Ultra is the official One UI 7 beta. Samsung have finally taken the wraps off of this software after delaying it and working on it for months. We now can go deep into this bit of software and show you what all the changes are, what's new, what's missing, and what to look forward to. I'm going to break it down by a few things. I'm going to look at like the visual design of One UI 7. I'm also going to look at sort of how the interaction has changed with some of the things like the quick panel, for example. I then want to look at the new features and then the camera, because that has got a massive overhaul. So I want to look at that. And then just some of the random stuff that I've found that's deep hidden in the settings. We also have another video comparing One UI 7 to One UI 6.1.1 on the Galaxy S24. So you can go check that out after this so you can compare them side by side. Okay, first of all, the visual aesthetic. Things are different. The first thing that strikes you is the app icons have changed. You can see it straight away on my home screen. The calculator has this much fresher sort of look about it. It's got some more striking sort of colors. But even the Galaxy Store, the Dialer app, Samsung Internet, Samsung Gallery, I really like the Samsung Gallery icon. But if you head into the Samsung folder and you can really take a bit of a look at it, Bixby icon's got a fresh color. The camera icon is not red anymore. Samsung Health has remained the same. Modes of routines looks a bit fresh. Samsung Notes, My Files, Pen Up, they all kind of have a bit of a visual redesign to sort of go with the new aesthetic of One UI 7. The other thing you sort of notice too is the battery icon now has the number inside the battery, and it's like a round icon. And the font's a little bit different at the top too for the time. So Samsung have really gone and changed a lot of the visuals. And you can also notice that with the widgets. You can see my widget stack here. The normal widget was the outline that is there, whereas now you've basically got no borders around it. And when you pinch out and go into widgets, you kind of get to see a little bit of their new rounded design that Samsung have kind of created for this new One UI 7 aesthetic. There's some other visual changes to existing features, like Smart Select has got some really minor visual changes, like the glowing effect is still there, but it kind of is constant. And then when you do circle around something, every option is there. Samsung haven't hidden anything, like sketched image you see. 3 dots is a bit more of a sort of accessible way. You've got Create GIF, which came back via a Smart Select update previously, but everything is now in place as opposed to before when it wasn't. Also too, a lot of the animations and I guess interactivity for Galaxy AI has visually changed too. So if I go into creating a message here and I hit the Galaxy AI, you can see a bit of a visual change there for how it's laid out. Tell me if it looks familiar. So that's kind of, I guess, a bit of a visual look. There's other things that are kind of remain the same, like the settings menu is a little bit more rounded in the corners. Everything's got a bit more space between it, so it stands out, a bit more contrast between everything. But outside of that, a lot of the visual stuff is very much still One UI, but the way you interact with One UI has changed. And that moves us to the interaction part. So the first thing is Samsung have separated the quick panel and the notification panel. So a swipe down anywhere on the screen brings down the notification panel. When you look at it, I've got no notifications, but it is very much just notifications. Like I'll send myself a message now so we can kind of get a bit of a look at what this sort of new interaction or new notification panel looks like. Now if I swipe down, you'll see hello. Now, you're so used to seeing the quick panel when you do this, but if you want to access the quick panel, there's 2 things you can do. Swipe to the left, and the quick panel's there, or swipe from the top right corner to bring the quick panel down.
Mano, vou pausar essa parte aqui porque, cara, tá muito bonito, mano. Agora a gente consegue ver de forma 100% oficial. Parece que tá rolando boatos que não vai ter suporte ao modo DeX pelo computador, eu acho, tá? Foi o que falar na One UI 7.
Down. And the quick panel looks completely different. What we've got here is still the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth toggles. You've still got the settings and the power and the edit button, which we'll get into in a moment. But you've got here now an expanded quick panel option to show you all of the toggles, which rather than swiping through them, they just narrow in a long list. That makes sense in a moment for some of the other changes Samsung have made. Swipe that back up and it condenses it. Then you've got what we showed off earlier in our preview, the separate brightness and music toggles. And then you've got what's here as a play last song. Now this is where your media controls will be when there's a song playing. I'll come back to that. But there is an option here that if you had a song playing, you can just hit play last song. There we go, media panel.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Toma aí a propaganda aí, ó. Vou falar em propaganda.
Is there. Now, if you don't like the layout of this, you can hit the edit icon and literally drag things as you want it. So if you want the media controls up above, and then you want the quick panel stuff to be a bit more reachable with one hand, you can. Samsung have given you that option to customize the order and flow of the quick panel. Now, the next thing that has drastically changed alongside that is the app drawer. We're so used to swiping up on the app drawer and then swiping through it left to right. That's gone. You now swipe up to get the app drawer.
Pra cima, garoto. Agora sim, mano.
To go through all of your apps. The search bar has been moved down to the bottom. We kind of saw this in our hands-on a couple of months ago. But what we didn't see was the fact that it's in the vertical app drawer. I don't mind it. You can go through the apps by letter, sort of on the right-hand side. And then you can just keep swiping and all your apps are there. There's no pages to go through anymore. It's just like this. It remains to be seen whether or not this is going to be customizable. At the moment, whenever we go into, where are we here? Settings.
DJ, dá pra baixar, mas tem que instalar ROM de fora, mano. Da Alemanha, Estados Unidos.
I finished shooting and I've started editing. We now realize you can actually customize it. So if you swipe up and you go to the 3 dots down here, if you sort it by custom order, it will actually bring the swipe style back. The only thing is you have to then organize it yourself, because if you choose alphabetical order, that will make it in the long vertical list. So you just have to decide when you get One UI 7 the style you like.
Tipo assim, galera, o bom é que quando a gente atualizar para o One UI 7.0, a gente não vai ficar muito perdido, porque como a gente tá vendo um hands-on aqui oficial pela própria Samsung no SAMMOBILE, então a gente não vai ficar tão perdido na hora de, até mesmo para mim poder criar conteúdo para vocês, mostrando aí o review completinho, já que a gente tá aqui estudando aqui junto aqui como é que tá rodando aí a One UI 7.0.
But at least you still have the option to bring back the card sort of swiping through style. There's a few things you can tinker with, but outside of that, it's the same. Like you can see here, app screen grid, and it's columns. You have 4 columns or 5 columns.
Irmão,
verdade. The options. You can see here app and widget style, so you can change the size of the apps in the home screen. Very minimal change. I like to keep it nice and small to sort of maximize the space. And you can now add labels to widgets. So if you want the widget to have a name underneath it, you can do that and it will tell you there, Samsung Internet, if you want. Now, animations, I think, have gotten really good because Samsung seem to have made this thing extremely fluid. In our other video, where we talk about One UI 6.1.1 versus One UI 7, we do a bit more of a deeper dive in comparing the animations between the two. But just know from what we can see so far, is that Samsung have seemed to put a lot of effort into the fluidity.
Essa fluidez,
and no more so than the new task changer. So when you swipe up from the bottom now, task changer has this really nice fluid motion about it to go through all of your open and active apps. And then, same as what you would before, you just swipe down to bring it back. It's no real different in terms of functionality. It just has this new aesthetic about it. Nothing really has changed. You still have the close all button, which is great. Now onto features, because there's some really cool stuff in One UI 7 that Samsung have introduced to make it, again, goes along with interactivity, but it's still, I would call it a feature as opposed to interaction. I guess it's a bit of both. The now bar. So if you were on the lock screen, when there is a thing happening, so for example, if you've got music playing, so I'll just put on some Tay Swift, #1 artist for 2024. If I lock the screen now, on always on display, you will see that there is an action there, or it's showcasing what is happening down the bottom. Now, if you go into the lock screen, that's there, and then when you tap on it, it brings up the media player and shows you a picture of the album or the song that you're playing. And then that kind of recesses into always on display as well, which is really cool. Exit out of that and it pops back in to that sort of round, I guess, island. Oh God, is that dynamic island? It's almost like it's just taken from the top and moved it to the bottom. Now, that isn't just for music. If we go into the settings and we go into lock screen and always on display, you will see...
Ô DJ, cara, pra você instalar você tem que ter computador, velho. Você tem que instalar ROM de fora. É mó rolê, irmão. Acho que nem compensa, cara.
The now bar. If I go into now bar,
entra no nosso curso de tecnologia, irmão. Tá na descrição do nosso canal.
There is live stuff that can be tracked
canal do WhatsApp
with the now bar on the bottom. So clock, voice recorder, emergency steering, Samsung Health Interpreter, Maps, Samsung Notes, and Bixby. Now, the easiest one to show is clock. So if I go into the clock here and I just start a stopwatch, I'll exit out of that. There's two things that happen. One, you get a little clock thing at the top here, which you can tap on and expand out, and then it goes back into it. And then when I lock the screen, the clock runs on always on display to start with, as you can see there. Maybe I'll show it over here and you might get a bit of a look at it. And then if I unlock the screen, you can see the clock running down below. And then when I click on it, same sort of thing, it expands it out and then I can interact with it, play, pause, complete a lap, so forth. And then it just sort of retracts back into itself. Samsung have created a really nice function and feature with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing it sort of expand over that. As you saw in the settings there is music and modes and routines that also can function with the now bar as well. But as you saw, it was also on always on display. So if I go to always on display, you can see show now bar. So you can toggle that off should you not want it. Next is a little function regarding battery. So it's a very small one, but Samsung do call it out in their changelog. If we go into device care and into battery, they're inside battery protection. It doesn't look like there's anything new here, but when you hit maximum, there is now a toggle for what limit you can put on charging the battery. So the lowest is 80%, the highest is 95%, and there's a couple of steps.
Galera, isso aqui é mais pra quem usa modo DeX, velho, porque você vai conectar o celular 24 horas ali no modo DeX, usando como se fosse um computador, tipo notebook. Mas a gente que usa um telefone normal, se você tem um telefone normal, tipo da linha A e tal, cara, isso aqui é besteira, tá? Compensa mais o básico ou adaptável, mas esse bagulho de travar, de não chegar a 100% é muito besteira. Você vai descarregar o celular mais rápido e vai gastar o ciclo de qualquer maneira. Isso aqui é mais pra quem usa no modo DeX, beleza?
In between. You can choose which one you like, or you can keep it as adaptive or basic or turn it off. But that new one is down there. Another new one is to do with Galaxy AI. Now, I haven't noticed a great deal in terms of new functions, but this one is here. If we go into the phone dialer and we go into settings, you'll see something here called call transcripts. Now, when I turn this on, what will happen is if I get a phone call, it can actually automatically convert recorded calls into a transcript. Let's give it a whirl. So I'll talk and call myself from here.
Não curtiu, Hugo? Por que, maninho? Tá retocando a cor? Como assim, irmão, retocando a cor?
So I'll answer it. And then hit the call recording. And it's now a 3, 2, 1. All this being recorded. It said this call is being recorded on the other phone, and now it's sort of recording and also live transcribing at the same time. So if I hang up, let's see where this saves to. I can see a little notification at the top. Let's bring out the new notification, call recorded, call recording log, whatever it sort of saved it as. That's the log of the recording. You can view transcripts on the recent screen. Okay, here we go. View recording and transcripts. Hit allow, done. That is showing me the transcript and it's got the live recording. Decent. All right, now it's the camera. Samsung have put in a massive redesign into this camera. So let's launch it and show you what it is. First thing you'll be able to notice immediately is there's nothing really at the top anymore. Samsung have kind of
Mudou mesmo, pessoal.
shrunk down and really only had like really essential stuff there. But the new stuff, all that stuff is now here. You press that button and you swipe across and all of your controls are there.
Caraca,
now there's a new control in here that wasn't here before. This one, exposure. Now, previously exposure would be you tap on the screen and you get the exposure slider. Whereas here, you now have the option to set exposure for the whole picture. And that is evident in every single mode. So even if I go into portrait photos and I hit that, that exposure slider is available for me. That's really neat. I like that. So another bit of a visual redesign that you will see, and let's jump over here, is that the thing to sort of show you the leveler for the photos has changed. It's now no longer a circle, it's like a little target, and you line the target up. The thing is, it changes depending on the camera mode that you're in. So if I switch over to portrait, there's like a little level feature, because it's sort of just, as long as it's balanced and level at a certain degrees, you've got a bit of an area that you can sort of operate in between, which I think is really cool. That option is really nice. The other sort of change with camera is to do with Pro and video modes. So if we go into the More tab 1, the More tab is now way easier to access. But if I go into Pro mode, it's got a whole visual redesign. You've got easier controls here, or easier access to controls. It's a bit more well laid out. It's not as dominating. If you go into Pro Video mode, that is the same. So we'll go into Pro Video mode and you'll see it to be a very similar sort of look and feel about it. And again, you've got the extra toggles down there. In terms of camera features, aside from that exposure slider one, haven't picked up on anything. The only thing Samsung did say is this 2x high resolution crop is now there by default, as opposed to needing Camera Assistant to put it in. Speaking of Camera Assistant, I went in to try and find any settings of Camera Assistant that are new, and there's nothing. It is exactly the same. There is, however, a new sort of camera setting, which you can see the composition guide gives you the options to have grid lines and level, or grid lines only, or level only, which I think is really neat as an option. Outside of that, though, there is actually nothing really new except audio playback. You can toggle on, allow music and other audio to play whilst you record. So if you've got music playing, you won't stop the music. When you hit record, it'll keep playing the music. But you can, of course, toggle that off.
Caramba, mano, vai ser tipo Instagram? Porque, tipo assim, se você tá ouvindo uma música no seu celular, você tá ouvindo uma música no seu celular e você bota pra poder gravar, às vezes você tá escutando uma música numa caixinha de som Bluetooth, essas paradas, ele para de gravar, ele tipo assim, ele para o áudio, você tá ouvindo na sua caixinha e já era. Aí você tem que escutar pelo Instagram, que pelo Instagram ele não para, tá ligado? Então parece que pela câmera nativa da Samsung você vai conseguir gravar o vídeo, mostrando a música e tal, se você estiver reproduzindo a música no seu celular, sem interrupções. Interessante.
Do not want it. Outside of that, the camera is pretty much the same. You just have this new one-handed operation, which again ties back into what One UI was about from the start. Now, the random finds, because there is some stuff in here that you just trawl through, and I've only had this software for maybe 4 hours, and I've also slept for probably 4 hours. So 8 hours in total that I've had this software, but only really accessed for 4 of it. But I've found some stuff. So if we go into the gallery, you'll notice the visual redesign of the app. Again, show a bit more of that in the comparison to One UI 6.1.1. But if we go into the settings for the gallery, what we see here is a new option called Photo Editor Settings. In here, you've got Raw Image Editor. So if you have a raw photo now, you can go into this and it'll actually launch a separate editor for you to be able to edit it specialized a bit more. And then after that, it'll move it into the standard editor for more of the basic sort of stuff like cropping and other edits and effects that you might want to add. So we can just quickly take a raw photo. We'll just jump into Pro mode, why not? And just take a quick photo of our Christmas tree here. Excellent, snapped. So if I go into the photo here and just make sure I've got the raw copy, let's make sure there it is, raw. I hit edit and now it has got the raw image editor. This is brand new. So you've got an auto that you can toggle on and off. You can
A
swipe through the
7.1 vai
highlights.
ser mais
There's really only
focada
two
na
things,
AI, cara,
highlights
então nem
and
esperem muito.
shadows that you can play around
Pra quem
with,
não tem
and
muito,
then once you're
sei lá,
done,
tipo assim, eu não
it
curto
then will take you
muito, eu não
through
uso
and move you
tanto
on
AI,
to the
tá
proper
ligado?
editor. So that's new. The other one I found is to do with the display, but it also ties into battery. And the phone already does this. It auto dims the screen when the battery is below 5%, but you can now toggle it off. So if you just like to live on the edge, you can toggle off auto dim screen and run that battery down with as high brightness as you can go, because you can toggle that off now. And another one that I found is to do with sounds and vibration. So in here, there's something called temporary mute. So if I hit that, I can mute the phone for a temporary amount of time if I want to, and then I can sort of have a custom one if I need to as well. That's a new toggle that's not there in One UI 6.1.1. That's One UI 7. That's the visual redesign that we got. That's the interaction designs that we now have as well. Samsung seem to have gone to the drawing board and sort of made sure it interacts and flows really comfortably. We will obviously have more coverage of One UI 7 the deeper we can go into it with the beta. We'll keep you updated over the usage over periods of time before it officially drops. Hit subscribe to SAMMOBILE TV and make sure you go check out our website for all of the information regarding which countries are getting it, how you can register, because you will want to be able to get this as soon as you can. See you guys next time. Thanks.
Na moral, pessoal, gostei da One UI 7, mas eu esperava mais, cara. Eu acho que eu criei muita expectativa com os vazamentos, os rumores que tava saindo. Por exemplo, eu vou falar pra vocês aqui, por exemplo, a ilha dinâmica que não veio, que tava rolando boatos nos vazamentos que ia ter aquela ilha dinâmica no igual do iPhone. Pelo que a gente tá olhando aqui, não vai ter. Cara, tipo assim, teve algumas coisas ali bacanas, como por exemplo, câmera de aplicativos, o ícone da bateria, né? O Eyes on Display que tá bem mais personalizável. Tipo, tem algumas coisas ali interessantes, tá ligado? Só que, mano, eu esperava mais por conta da minha expectativa muito alta que eu tive pelos vazamentos. Então isso aí é um erro meu, tá ligado? Mas eu acho que é, tipo assim, é a gente usar no nosso telefone pra poder passar um feedback um pouco mais profundo, tá ligado? Porque, tipo assim, a gente olhando por vídeo, não é aquela mesma sensação de você estar utilizando ali a One UI de fato, pessoalmente, tá ligado? Mas eu esperava mais. Eu, Allen, falando, essa é a minha opinião, tá ligado? O que vocês achou aí, mano, da One UI 7? Você acha que foi um pouquinho decepcionante? Tipo assim, como eu falei, tá bacana? Tá, mas eu esperava bem mais, cara. Não vou mentir pra vocês.